Rise up this morning, smiled at the rising sun. Three little birds at breakfast with Bob. Oh, yeah.
Macho Man! Day 5 of Breakfast with Bob. We're presented by ES Sports Nutrition, Cliff Bar, Timex, Roca, Tanyapura Resort, Rudy Project, and Slow Twitch. Talking Team Timex. Tom Schuler from Team Timex. Lisa Roberts from Team Timex. Tommy, you can grab that microphone thing. So, Tommy, talk a little bit about Team Timex. You guys have been doing this a long time, and from talking to the age group athletes who are involved, it's incredibly impactful on them. They just love being part of a team. You don't think of triathlon as a team thing. It's an all individual, but there's some bond among all your Team Timex athletes.
Good morning, Bob.
Tommy.
Yeah, this is the 13th year that Timex has had a team, the Timex multisport team,
Yeah.
and really the concept was to start it like a cycling team where we really try to support one another as much as we can. It's an individual sport, so we took some of the things that applied to pro bike teams, and I tried to understand, because I come from a pro cycling background, tried to understand what we had to do differently, personal choices and equipment, that kind of stuff, where we can.
Right.
But at the end of the day, we are out there to support our athletes so they can have their best years, hopefully, of their triathlon career as a part of this team. And we've had lots of athletes come through the team, go out on their own, and they're all part of the extended, long Timex family.
So Lisa, for you, last year you were 20th as a pro. How long have you been involved with Timex, and how nice does it feel not racing this year?
This is my second year on the Timex multisport team, and I'm absolutely thrilled to be part of the team. It's a little different. It's bittersweet not getting to race this year. On one hand, obviously that's what I like to do as a professional triathlete, is I want to race, and I want to race on the biggest stage that we can offer.
Yes.
On the other hand, the sponsors and all the other companies that support this sport and us athletes in general, I like to be able to spend my time to support them. If I'm not racing, I want to be out here for them as well. So,
best race you've had as a amateur or a pro?
I would say actually this year at Ironman France might be my best race. I've had a string of second and third places, so I've been a bridesmaid several times now.
Yes.
Have yet to get that win, but I had my fastest run split this year at Ironman France.
What was that?
2:54.
Ooh, that's the real deal.
Yeah.
You start doing in the low 250s. That's sweet.
Yeah, so I was happy with that. I mean, not only is that a really historical course for triathlon, beautiful as well, and one of my favorites.
Looking forward to now, do you have to think right away, okay, now I got to start getting points for 2016?
Yes.
So I'm sure while you're here, you're also thinking, where am I going? Arizona, Florida, what am I doing next?
Exactly. Well, I did do one just 2 weeks ago, Ironman Chattanooga. So that starts me off already for next year.
And how'd you do there?
Second place there.
Boy, you like second.
I know. A little too much. I don't like that.
I also heard that you're a jellyfish whisperer. What's the deal on that?
I can find a jellyfish in the local rec center pool.
In the pool, really?
Yes.
Everywhere?
Yes, everywhere.
And they will sting you?
They will sting me repeatedly. I'm not the greatest swimmer out there, so I like to think it's probably because I kind of bob along in the water like they do, so they think I'm one of them.
We'll wait till all the fast people go, and then we'll look at the stragglers.
That's right.
There's Lisa.
That's right.
Let's go get her.
Yes, that's what happens every
it.
time.
So, Tom, you've been very instrumental in the career of a young woman who is the number one triathlete in the world on the ITU circuit right now, and a favorite for Olympic gold next year, Gwen Jorgensen. And for folks who don't realize, they see her win Chicago, win a dozen races in a row. They don't realize, and back in 2010, she had finished up her collegiate career, swimming for 3 years at Wisconsin, running for the last 2 years, while getting her CPA, ready to start her job at, I think, Ernst & Young. And then she's identified as a potential triathlete by Barb Lindquist. And she's, in Wisconsin, training with Tom Schuler, learning how to ride a bike. Talk a little bit about this raw cyclist, because she really didn't have any background on a bike.
Yeah, I mean, she had been an athlete since age 12, a swimmer first and then a runner through her high school and collegiate career at the University of Wisconsin. And I was actually here in Kona, and I got a call from someone back in Wisconsin that said, Tom, you got to talk to this young triathlete. So I called her from Kona, And I said, let's get together when I get back. So after a couple discussions, she was on the Timex team. But for me, and I think for Gwen more importantly, well, I did introduce her to her now husband, Pat Lemieux, on a bike ride.
Oh, that's so cool.
We were working on some stuff on this group bike ride, and we were coming off the back a little bit, and I yelled at her husband. I said, Pat, get back here, her future husband. He came back, and they started, after we did what we needed to do in the workout, they started chatting. But anyway, it was really just helping her identify what are those skills that, as a top endurance athlete with a red line like you can't believe,
yes,
how do we quickly move her up so she can get in pack number one? And it took a couple of years, and I worked with her for a couple of years until she ended up with Jamie, and I can't remember Jamie's last name, Australian guy that has an amazing training group down in Melbourne,
right,
and then in Spain in the summer. And her husband was a pro cyclist also. So, but I was working with her before she met her husband, Pat Lemieux. But we were working on explosive power. We were working on mostly technique stuff, really simple stuff, and
clipping
mostly
in, clipping out, not falling over at stoplights.
Mostly learning to relax
yes,
on the bike. That's what we were really working on, is how to relax, and that's not something you have to feel, especially in pack riding. So
exactly.
Very satisfying. I went down to Chicago, watched Gwen win. It just and that course had 27 turns, 27 corners, 9 U-turns per lap. And so if you don't know how to ride in a pack, you're gonna pay the price.
If you don't know how to excel, it's really, when you're talking about that type of format in the draft legal, it's a criterion. I mean, you have to explode out of the turns, and you have to bike handle, and you better be able to change your gears at the right time, because we see a lot of those guys, triathletes, aren't necessarily the best bike handlers in the world.
Yeah, and that's what Chicago was. If you weren't positioned, you were wasting, I don't know how much energy to have to accelerate
on every turn.
Corner. Gwen was well positioned, and
yes,
and the lead packs were 30 strong in Chicago. It all came together.
That's crazy.
But I'm not that familiar with the ITU courses. I haven't watched that many, but it sure is exciting, like it was in Chicago.
Really fun to watch.
The style.
Lisa, when did you get into the sport?
I got into the sport. The first triathlon I did was in 2002.
Oh, so you've been in it for a while.
I have, yeah. This is my 5th year as a pro.
Okay. And so you raced as an amateur for a long time. And just when did you realize, you know what, I'm getting pretty good at this. Maybe I should dip my foot in and see if it makes sense?
I think whenever I was close to winning the national championship for long course, and I thought, maybe I can give this a shot. I'm not too bad after all. So, that's when I decided to do that.
What was your breakthrough race as a pro where you felt like, okay, this was a good decision? Because a lot of times you make that move, it's a different world racing as an amateur, and then all of a sudden, oh, that's Caroline Steffen, that's Marinda Carfrae, it's a different gig.
It's definitely a different gig, and I was quite shell-shocked whenever I first started racing, quite honestly. And so it took a good year or two to really adjust to how different it is and how much more difficult it is to race as a professional athlete. But my breakthrough race, I think, as a pro came about 3 years ago at Ironman Los Cabos, when I finally broke onto the podium for the first time.
Very cool. And so from that, you also learned that you like heat.
Yes, and that I do a little bit better at it than the other ladies do. So,
are you? How many Ironman events are you doing a year now? Because a lot of times people, to get enough points to get here.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a little bit of my problem last year. Was Kona was my 6th Ironman for that calendar year. So
what,
I was
6?
Yes.
Oh my God!
I don't recommend anybody doing that,
especially if you want to.
If you really want to do well,
if you want your husband and kid to know who the heck you are.
That's right. Yeah. So I don't recommend doing that many in a year. Maybe a couple in the year is probably just fine. Yes.
So Tommy, let's talk a little about your cycling career, your era. We're talking about Greg LeMond. We're talking about Davis Finney. We're talking about Ron Kiefel. That was an amazing era of American cycling. Talk a little bit about when you got into it and met some of those guys.
It's called old school.
Exactly.
Old school. No helmets.
Yeah.
Then leather hairnets, black wool shorts, nail-on cleats on the shoes. That's when I started. Well, you were doing the same thing, but I was one of those things. We're all in the right place at the right time at some aspect of our lives. And I grew up in Detroit, the Wolverine Sports Club, one of the stronger club-based, old-school European coaching passed down from generation to generation kind of thing, Italians, Belgians, and we had great coaching, and I was able to enjoy it at the right time in my life where just, I got to get out of the house.
Right.
The bike is freedom at that point when you're 16
when you're
years
a kid,
old.
man, it puts you out there.
And I like to compete, so you're out there, and I had the access to this Wolverine Sports Club, and I was able to, you make connections, end up on the national team, and right when we were starting to go to Europe.
With 7-Eleven?
With 7-Eleven, yeah. 7-Eleven lasted 10 years, and I was on that team all 10 of those years, from the beginning to the end. So anyone that was in the 7-Eleven jersey was a teammate. And Lamond was just, launching his career out of Northern California.
Yes.
And he, who's this 17-year-old that's kicking our butts? And, as in cycling, you kind of, push people around and keep the youngsters down. And we tried, but you could not keep that guy down. And he raced through the U.S. scene and was off to Europe. But in the meantime, the 7-Eleven team was invited to the Giro d'Italia, the Tour de France. Next thing you know, we were a player and winning stages in the Tour. And then, of course, Andy Hampston won the Giro in '89. So that was really – but we'd already established our place, and we were the only American team in that scene when the Europe and the Tour wanted to expand worldwide. So we were the delivery vehicle to America. So I think that's why the team is remembered. We have a 5-year reunion every year. We're having it this November up in Napa. So we get together.
When you look back, and people don't think that much about it now because we have a lot of Americans who ride in a Tour, but back then, Jonathan Boyer had ridden the Tour, and then the 7-Eleven team, and obviously Le Mans. But as a team of Americans coming over, not speaking the language, dealing with hotels that are different and travel. Bob Roll told me stories of you guys being at the starting line and the bikes weren't there, right? And, there's like, we have no idea where our guys are, and across the pitch, here come our car with all the bikes on top. And the guy's he's 3 days late, right? And you're going, oh my God, it must have been a real eye opener for you guys going to Europe, because that's where all the real cycling was. That's where the best were. And for you guys, these young Americans, how were you accepted by the rest of the peloton?
So we, the whole team started as an amateur team in '81. We went amateur through the '84 Olympics, and then in '85, the lock, stock, and barrel, we turned pro. And I really think it was Davis's idea. Davis approached Akowitz and said, "Look, we're amateurs. We gotta take it up a notch." So we turned pro over the winter of '84 and all went off to Europe, some of those early races. Yeah. And, we showed up and we had I remember I had those hunting battery pack socks.
Yes.
Because it's cold and wet as hell over in southern France in February. And, Bernard Hinault and John Ross are looking at us like, look at these goofballs.
Geeks.
A lot of the stuff we did was really goofy, and some stuff made sense. For instance, we had the first female soigneur in the sport. Shelley Versus.
Yes.
And that was taboo.
Of course.
And we opened a lot of doors. We did a lot of things that they weren't doing. They had all kinds of traditions about nutrition. I remember we took Power Bar to the Tour de France in '86 for the first time, that kind of science food.
Right.
So a lot of things were goofy and a lot of things actually were adopted. Pay scale was enhanced by when Le Mans came over.
Oh, yeah?
The pay scale went up. So a lot of things became more globalized. Ideas came into the peloton from the American side, and then, of course, the Australian side and whatever came next. But we came with a whole different view on things. But at the same time, we were absolutely trying to assimilate into the traditions of the sport.
What was your favorite race or favorite day on a bike while you were a pro cyclist?
I mean, I did not have a long career in France with our team, but so I don't have too many memories. I had some good races over there. In the Giro, the one Giro I rode, I had some decent finishes in the top 10, but are unmemorable to anyone but me.
Well,
but again, when
matters,
you have your best race, it's not necessarily the biggest stage. I probably had my best day. I won the U.S. Pro Championships in Philadelphia in '87. One of those magical days where, course states, nothing went wrong. Right. And the legs were perfect.
Yes.
It was a hot day, but everything's perfect. So, but you don't know when those perfect days are going to happen. You just hope they happen on the biggest stage, right?
That's right.
Your perfect day. What was your perfect day?
My perfect day. Well, I haven't had one yet, Bob, because I haven't been first yet, so there hasn't been a perfect day.
So second doesn't
that doesn't count. No, I have there's a lot of very good parts to all of my days, and I learn from each one where things might not be quite where I'd like them to be.
Yes.
So I take that, I learn those lessons, and then I try to apply it to the next race. So every race has something good about it. Like I said, Ironman France, that was my best run.
Right.
So I'll take that and I'll move that one to the next race. And then I've had some really good bike splits as well at other races. Ironman Mont Tremblant this year was a good bike split.
Yes.
So I take that and hope that one of these days I can combine all three of those into one perfect day.
Love it. Tom, you're one of the early adapters when it came to, because cyclists and triathletes never really mixed, right? But there was a point where you saw the future and saw that triathletes these guys ride bikes and they got a lot of power. They got a huge engine. They need some help learning how to ride a bike, and you were able to sort of go, okay, this is all one family of endurance. Let's work together.
Bob, I was thinking about that on the way down here because that's probably when I met you in San Diego. I would come out and do a training block every spring, and I'd do the Wednesday ride to Camp Pendleton, and Ken biathlete.
Kenny Souza.
Kenny Souza was so impressive. Who the hell? Who is that guy?
Who's that long-haired guy in the Speedo?
My own heart. He's called Rockfish. Yes.
He was Rockfish.
And I love talking to Kenny, but I got to know him a little bit. But so from the get-go, when there was a lot of battles on the rides between. The pro cyclists didn't want to ride
limits,
close to the
they
dangerous
can't
triathletes. Exactly. I had a lot of respect for Kenny and the guys like that.
And Molina and all those guys.
Get to know. And so we had the opportunity with Timex. We were managing a women's cycling team for Timex. And Chris Johnson said, let's think about doing a team in the style of a bike team for triathlon. So I think it wasn't difficult. And again, we tried to be respectful of what's appropriate within a team setting in this sport. But the ultimate respect for doing three things and balancing that, and not being a jaded road cyclist. And I don't feel like I ever was.
No,
but maybe in the beginning I was.
When I look at someone like a Gwen Jorgensen again, here's somebody who was a great runner in college, but at the same time, by riding the bike, she's become a better runner because she's running less. She's doing a lot of her anaerobic work on the bike, and it's the triathlon actually works cycling works to help you make people better runners, and I think that light bulb went off for a number of people years ago. But for someone like Gwen, she's healthy, and the bike has made a huge difference, not just for the cycling itself, but the fact that she's become a better runner.
I think, Lisa, you've had coaches that you've garnered one or two nuggets from every coach you've had, going all the way back to your earliest day of athletes. And again, you take the pieces that work and you move them forward, and the stuff that didn't work, you discard it. So you become essentially your own coach.
Right.
And I remember Mike Neal, I was a teammate of Mike's in the very early days. He went off to Italy, had a great pro career. But one of the things he told me when he was now coaching us on 7-Eleven was we were using cycling, putting on big miles, big hours, recovery ride twice a day. It was a better recovery than doing nothing, of course.
Of course.
So again, with Gwen and how she's used cycling to maybe work on other pieces, it can be used that way because it's non-weight bearing and it's not as traumatic. So But beyond that, I don't know at the kind of hours and the kind of work you're putting in, how you use it.
Have you found it, Lisa?
Absolutely. I was a collegiate runner as well, middle distance and distance runner. And as I kind of slowly got into triathlon, I was very worried that I was going to lose that speed and that, my times in the run, but it's actually made them a lot better. And I'm running maybe a third as the miles as I used to. Yeah.
See, and that to me is the message.
Yeah.
And I would love for collegiate coaches and high school coaches to understand that not so much putting people on the road riding a bike, but even if you had a trainer, if you had spin bikes at the track, you can make people better and keep them healthier forever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, I had daughters that ran, and whenever the kids were injured in high school, they would get on the bike and ride with the team, but do a little of that proactively.
Yes.
Not just during injury time.
Love it.
Right.
I mean, thank you both for coming in.
You're
Congratulations,
welcome.
Tom, on everything that you guys have accomplished with Team Timex. I love it. A number of years ago, I was privileged to come to Giant Stadium and watching Team Timex walk into the Giants locker room where Eli Manning and all the greatest football players hang their clothing, and having all the Team Timex stuff hanging in those lockers. It was like Christmas. Every athlete lit up like, oh my God, this is for me, a triathlete? You guys have really, really upped the ante and treated these age group athletes and pro athletes like they should be treated. I appreciate that.
Thanks, Bob. We appreciate everything you do.
I love it. Tom
Thank
Schuler,
you.
Lisa Roberts. Again, this is Breakfast with Bob, presented by ES Sports Nutrition, Cliff Bar, Timex Roca, Tanya Puerto Resort, Rudy Project, Slow Twitch. Pancho Man, take us out.
Oh, and don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be alright at Breakfast with Bob.
Pancho Man.